I often hear 5S being described as step 0 for autonomous management, and that is a pretty dangerous way of looking at it. So let's discuss where it has a place, but especially also let's discuss where they are not the same. Hello, I'm Tom. Welcome to my channel where we talk about continuous improvement in an industrial setting. And today's video is about autonomous management, autonomous maintenance as you like, and 5S. And they are of course very linked, but often I hear people talking about 5S as if it's a requirement for AM, as if it's step 0 for autonomous management. So the basic idea is that if you can't do 5S, you can't do AM either. You need to first finish 5S before you start AM. And that sentiment is very dangerous. So let's unpack that a little. And I'll front load the conclusion. 5S is a continuous system. AM has a couple of build-up steps and is then also a continuous system. So they are two separate systems. You cannot really do AM without also doing 5S. The other way around is definitely possible. So first off, right, what we often say is that when you check 5S AM, I like to use a car simile. So when you have a car and you take care of it, then AM, autonomous management, autonomous maintenance, is about the car. It is making sure that your car is in good condition, that it's reliable, that it's well maintained, stuff like that, right? That you know how to work the car. And 5S is about your garage. So 5S is about all the other tools around the car so that you can maintain it well, clean it well, so that the place where your car resides is nice and orderly, so that you can drive in and out of your garage the whole time. So that is a bit the idea. AM focuses mainly on the line, the machine, and how that works, how people work with it, how it's reliable, what are correct settings. The further you get in AM, the more detailed you go into the workings of the line, of the machine, of the equipment, of the car. And 5S is really about making an orderly standard, an orderly workplace. And when you clean once, and you've got an orderly workplace, but it will again become dirty if you put all the tools in a nice place, but you don't tell anyone about it, or you don't make it visible where that place is. Really, after you've used it a couple of times again, someone will take a tool, someone will put it in a different spot than where you put it. So cleaning is not sustainable, and 5S makes it that you have a whole system, which includes cleaning, but a whole system of communicating how you really want to organize the workplace. And that, well, let us indeed go into a little bit of the system and the build-up of these two systems. So 5S, and I mean we do the sorting and the shining and the standardization, but after you sustain, so well, if we start here, the fifth S would be sustain. Most depictions of 5S will also indeed make it a circle again. So the whole idea is that when you move through your workplace once and you sorted stuff, you cleaned it all out, and then you make the standards that you can sustain, that you can communicate with your other colleagues, well, one of the things that will also happen is that you get a better standard of sorting. So you get better at the discussion, where do we have to put these tools? You get better at cleaning it, you get better at making sure everything is in a proper condition, and you update your standards. So this is a system, and this is the type of system that at a company like Toyota is almost half the big basis of their whole system. So you put basically your whole quality management into 5S there, because it encompasses a lot of different standards, and all the cleanliness and the just-in-time can sort of be fit in there. And because at some point what you start doing, you start with, which tools do I have? But at some point you also say, okay, so how much material do I need? When do I need the material? How should we label boxes? And such things, they form when you continue. So the first iteration will really be about cleanliness. The second iteration will probably be a lot more about where are we going to place which tools. And third, fifth, 10th iterations will be about the work itself. So in principle, it's about the garage, but at some point you will be really thinking about how you're using and maintaining the car as linked to where should things be in the garage, how should we change it a bit, how can we make it nicer to work in, quicker to work in. So that it continues. Now, that means that if we were to say 5S is like step 0 under AM, well, maybe one iteration of 5S. Although I will argue in a moment that even that I think is tricky, but definitely not actual 5S first has to work well before we even start here. Now, why is that also? In AM, this first step, and I won't go into all the steps, but especially the first and second, they are sort of 5S-ish, and that is an important part. So steps 1 and 2 of the AM path, they are the total clean out, or the initial big clean, but total clean out. And then the second step is about cleaning. So it is removing sources of dirt, it is checking where it's hard to reach, hard to clean, updating cleaning standards, but the whole step is about the cleaning type of maintenance of your lines, of your machines. So how do I make sure it doesn't get dirty, and how do I make sure that I get it clean again in such a way that it is easier for the operator, better for the machine, and provides as clean a machine as possible, because a clean machine works a lot better. You will immediately see that there is quite a big link with 5S. And if you check most of the roadmaps for how do you implement step 1 and 2 of AM, you will indeed also see we're going to label everything. So the total clean out is basically the same what you would do if you start a big 5S initiative. So you say, probably we'll have so much work to do that let's just get together, the lot of us, prepare our technical department, prepare maybe some contractors for painting and cleaning and stuff like that to help us, and we'll just free up a whole bunch of operators and different colleagues, go in, really get everything out and check which things do we even want here. Step 1 of 5S, what is broken, step 2 of 5S, where do we need to clean, step 3 of 5S. During that, we immediately also check, why did it even get dirty? And maybe we can already think a bit about a change so that the cleaning will be easier, which is really more of an AM way of thinking. And then, of course, when we do all this work, well, let's at least then really make shadow boards and instructions and color coding and all those things to standardize where everything goes. Make some photos of how clean, what it looks like. So how clean do we want it? How do we check what is clean? So basically we're making a lot of standards. And then, and that's the funny thing a bit with AM step 1, I do not think that AM step 1 should be about sustaining yet. So the 5th S for me is not in step 1, but would really strongly be in step 2. And that is also because basically if you start up AM, this first step is to get everything sort of level. And as I often explain it, it is to give the AM team a fair chance. You can imagine that if you have a relatively new line that is also cleaned quite well, the environment around it is cleaned quite well, you basically give that AM team a good chance to build a structure there, to improve things, to work on it a bit, and then you can pretty quickly jump to step 2. But if you have a line that is just old, broken, and has a very bad cleaning record, you can think about cleaning, you can think about the 3rd, 4th step, the technical details, how we maintain specific parts of the line, tightening, lubrication, stuff like that. But it's going to be overwhelming. So what we do is we make sure that this total clean out sets a basis. When we discuss goals for an AM team, when can you move to the next step? Because AM sort of is a one-way street, sort of. We say you can close step 1, so you can continue to step 2, when 80% of the labels that were made during this total cleanout are solved, and a couple extra things, but 80% of those labels are solved. And that is a one-time thing, and it basically means if you had a total cleanout that just made it all nice, and there was not so much wrong with the machine, you didn't have that many labels, you can quickly move through step 1. If you had a lot of problems on the line, you will probably be a bit longer in this step 1, but give it a goal like that. So first off, it's 80%, so it's not 100% of everything you found during the total cleanout. And secondly, there is like this end idea to it. Now, I will admit, steps 2 till 7, and especially a bit in the shorter run, you need to maintain them. So step 1 for me in AM is do it once, move on, and as long as the team remains active and your autonomous management activities are supported within the factory, I usually do not return to step 1. That is different for step 2, 3, 4, 5, well, basically all of them. Because cleaning standards can always be improved a little bit. So there you have goals to step on to the next topic, but you do not stop the action that you initiated here. So there, what you basically have is the sustain S comes in, because you have standards that you make and check and improve later, also when you're in a higher scale. So basically here, step 1 you only do one time. The higher steps you can at some point return back and improve it a bit more. You will always keep doing them. So I would even say that if you do 5S really well, you have sort of already completed steps 1 and 2 of autonomous management. Now there will be a couple of small things, especially in step 2, that you will not have fully completed, but if you do it well, it is not step 0. It is almost the bottom block, and that is very important for also the motivation in the team, the checking where you are going, to not have this tremendously difficult system to implement perfectly. And I mean, it keeps on improving, so there is no end, and it doesn't give you any indication of when can we move a team on, when is this finished, and that is a big risk. While at the same time, when you do start with AM and you guide your team through it, you will see these. So within your CI support team, and I do assume that most of you, my viewers, are working either in more the management or the continuous improvement support type of roles. Within the CI support roles, you do really need to know and be prepared to immediately also roll out 5S, because some of the teams will see that for their area, 5S standards and 5S way of thinking is critical to move on in AM. Some other teams will see that it is sort of a side thingy to do, and maybe a bit later they will improve on it, but keep it ready. But make sure that you do this one big reset of your machine. Get it so that also your maintenance department is ready to solve those labels, those tags that you get from your total cleanout, and then really focus on how can we clean more effectively. But as soon as you step up, one of the things that I would always include in the step audits of autonomous management is, are you still writing labels? Are you still improving things? So when I do an AM team audit, one of the things I always ask is, so what have you improved in this area in the last 2 weeks, maximum 2 months? Preferably with photos. And also, has every team member written at least one tag last week? Because the team should focus on what can we do a bit better, and also focus on the little things that in the end will do a lot. Oh, that is Kaizen, continuous improvement. And basically with that you are building your sustain S, your 5th S. And by coming back to cleaning, you will also come back to this whole system. So they are a very good combination, but please do not use 5S as the foundation. It, first off, doesn't finish, so it's very difficult to tell when you can then start. And secondly, you need it in these steps. So if it is step 0, some people think that as soon as you start AM, 5S as a system is no longer needed. And that is also dangerous, because you need them both. Now, that being said, so don't use it as a basis. Do use it to roll out at the same time. Remember I said that AM is about the car, 5S is about the garage. In your factory, you will also have AM teams that really focus on a line, and it's good practice to say, well, if you are the AM team of this line, you also 5S the direct surroundings around that line. And this is a very common combo, and it works well and it feels natural. Now, there will also be areas in your factory that are not really linked to any line. So you will have warehousing parts, you will have transport corridors, a lot of logistical stuff, offices as well. And it is good practice to have pure 5S initiatives in those areas and to coordinate all of this from, if you are working with pillars, but from your AM pillar. So your AM pillar does combine 5S and AM. Your total, let's say, ordering and standardization roadmap, so even if you don't do it with an AM pillar, you as a management team, your plan of rolling this whole system out should include where are we going to and when start up AM, where and when are we going to start up 5S initiatives, how we're going to divide teams amongst them. And some people, because quite often we will also say everyone in the factory in the end should be in an AM team, because if you are an operator in the factory, you should also be a co-owner of the system, so you should be in autonomous management. But in this idea, it is still very normal, very acceptable to also say a 5S team in a non-machine and a non-production type of area that is sort of the same as being in an AM team. So you are either in an AM team for a line using really the AM type of tools, or you are in a 5S team for an area and you are really standardizing the way we work there, how we make sure it is nice to work, clean, orderly, stuff like that. So those things should be on one plan. You don't have to start it all at the same time. In fact, I would not advise it, because it is very difficult for your support organization. So it's difficult for CI support to teach everyone in the factory but also to coach then all of those teams. It is also almost impossible, especially for a factory that has some lagging maintenance, to suddenly handle the influx of those AM tags that will actually from 5S will come in and from AM will come in. Your technical department will not be able to suddenly triple or even more the rate with which they can solve those problems. Then you get a lot of open tags that are not solved, that are maybe even deprioritized, and you just beat the motivation of these team members, because they spend a lot of effort in getting good tags in there. You hyped it all up, and then it just drags on and drags on. And that is also one of the things, by the way. Step 1, I think step 1 should be finishable in 2 to 3 months. And just make sure you support it in that way. If you have 1 year in AM step 1, you will lose motivation. That team will, it's dangerous to say never, but a team that has been in step 1 of AM for a year will never become a well-functioning AM team that really makes it through getting the ownership and achieving higher steps of AM. So I would suggest you reset that team, talk with them, make a new list, finish that list, move on. The same goes for 5S things when nothing is actually removed or put in a good place. The same happens. So if 5S is all about cleaning, that team will lose motivation and it will also probably die out. But that's like a side hint. It has nothing to do with 5S not being step 0 of AM. That's just a bit of best practice. So to summarize, do not use 5S as the foundational step of AM. You can very well launch 5S by itself without going into the AM things and really just rolling out the system in your whole factory. It's quite a good way to do it. Also, do roll them out together, not at the same time. You will not have the resources for that. But as an improvement program team, as management, think about how and where and with whom to roll out these two programs, and make sure that you prepare your support departments that is needed for both these programs. And if you do that, you will keep motivation and you will get your team members, your operators, logistical staff, all shop floor personnel, you will keep them involved and getting that ownership. That is, in the end, a big goal of both of them, but especially, of course, of autonomous management. Now, let me know if you agree, especially also if you disagree. Let me know why you think it should be the foundational step for AM. Also, if you've liked my explanation, gotten anything from this video, don't forget to hit that like button. And as always, go and write some questions, some comments, some ideas in the comments below, because for me it is very nice stuff to draw inspiration for next videos, which of course will make it more interesting for you to watch as well. For now, I wish you the best of luck in your 5S and AM initiatives, and as always, enjoy the continuous improvement journey.